Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. I had my first week of my new job outside of like the training schedule.
Oh, okay. How is it?
I'm liking it. Like, it's really frustrating. It's a lot to take in all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're very understanding of that. They're like, this is a lot of crap we're throwing at you. So like they're a very understanding company, or at the very least the team that I'm working with is very understanding.
Sure.
So, and I'm working remotely. Like I was home all week. Like I feel like I don't think I've showered in several days. Like this is like, you know,
Jeff.
Well, I mean, like I can
smell you through the microphone.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I still got to get used to. I still got to adjust to working from home.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely some adjustments I need to make. Like I need to go outside more.
Sure.
I might even start going for a drive in the morning to help wake me up.
Oh,
because
interesting.
At least for the first few days where I was working from home, like I was so groggy.
Yeah.
I was so tired, and like for a really long time, through like half the day, I just felt like so tired. But then like the couple of times that I went into the office during training, because they want us to at least go in a few times, but during training they wanted us in there at least for like most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the office, like I would drive into the office, and then
Mm-hmm.
when I was there, I was fine. Like I felt awake as awake as I usually am during the morning at work. So like I was like, maybe a drive around the neighborhood or something might wake me up or something like that. So making small adjustments to remote work, but I'm enjoying it much more than my last job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the honeymoon phase will end eventually, and I'll hate the job to a certain extent. But I think
sure.
And like I will have to go into the office periodically, and I think they want me to go in at least once a week, and maybe down the line they'll have us go in more often depending on how, you know, the world is. But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that it'll be mostly remote, because I enjoy not having to go into work and see people. And anyway, I won't babble too long. I've already babbled too much about my new job, but it's better. It's way better than my last job, and it's remote. And I'm getting paid more. And I don't know. Yeah, it's going well. So
awesome. Yeah, it sounds great.
Sorry to talk about good job stuff, but how
no, it's
are you
fine.
doing?
I'm doing all right. So my work is my work. It's busy. We actually after Thanksgiving had an extra 2 days off, I guess. Like I was expecting to have to work that Saturday and that Sunday. They didn't schedule that Sunday, which was cool, and then they canceled Saturday the morning of. So I got a 4-day weekend. It was pretty sweet.
Nice.
Got some stuff done around the house, and trying to get stuff ready for Christmas. I got a lot of stuff on my plate, I suppose. No pun intended, because Thanksgiving and everything. One thing that I am doing for Christmas, I'm making something for my wife. There's a guy on Reddit who came up with this thing. It's a little 3D printed TV that looks like the TV on The Simpsons.
Oh, sure.
And it has a little screen inside and a Raspberry Pi computer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's programmed to just play episodes of The Simpsons just on random. So like you turn it on and it'll just be playing an episode. And then when that episode's done, it just goes to another episode. And then when that episode's done, just goes randomly to another one, and so on. And
nice.
He made a guide for it, and it all looks simple. So I've like 3D printed the parts, I've bought all the components and stuff, but holy crap, it is a lot of work, and it is very confusing work. I've had to solder a whole bunch of components together that are all very, very small and very easy to mess up. And also there's, I don't know how to program a Raspberry Pi. There's instructions in the guide, but like some of the things don't work exactly as they're described. Like the instructions aren't quite accurate.
Right,
And
because
like,
it depends on like the version of the Pi that you have, and
Right.
the version of the software or the BIOS, or
yeah, but I've still got several weeks, and I've done all of the soldering. Presumably is like the hard part, I guess. If I can get simple instructions on how to do the software stuff, it should just be a matter of just type this, type this, type this.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, I can start over. There's nothing stopping me from just starting over.
And like, even if I feel like even if you're like, it's a work in progress, sorry, I'm sure she'll be able to see the TV thing,
I guess.
like,
yeah.
And we'll probably be excited about it. So like, no, I think that's a really good gift. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody out there who maybe does this sort of stuff for fun, like programs stuff, you're better than me.
Yeah, right.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
As nerdy as I am, I haven't gotten as far as soldering yet. So,
yeah.
But that is something on my bucket list of like, is to like get to the point in my nerdiness where I'm soldering things.
Sure. Anyway, so I mean, not really much else going on, just work. I guess let me extend a thank you to Jacob C, who was on our episode last week. I thought that was a very fun episode. And I'll let everybody know, because we only have a few episodes left. We do have one more guest episode planned. Whether the schedules allow for it to happen or not, we will find out. But yeah, we're basically done with guests for the show. So let me just extend a big thank you to all of our guests that we've had in the past. We've had a lot of them, as we, I don't know if it's made it into the final episodes or not, but like I've talked about it with you, Jeff, in previous weeks. We've had a lot of guests over the last 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
so
it was kind of surprising hearing about it. I'm like, oh wow, yeah. And we were trying to remember them all, but
don't say that, Jeff, because then it'll sound like we don't remember them all.
Well,
I want everybody to know that.
It's like well, the thing is like I don't remember ever having a bad time with the guests. See,
no. Every one of our guest episodes have been so much fun.
Right. If like. I'm just saying, like, and people understand this. Like, if I don't remember it, it's because it was good.
Sure.
It was because if it was bad, I would remember. But it's been 5 years, so some of them I'm not going to remember. People understand that. But like, if it was 5 years ago and it was bad, I would remember every detail.
Sure.
So yeah. So we've had a great time with guest episodes. So.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Big, huge thank you to everybody who's guested on the show. You've helped make the show as awesome as it is.
Yeah.
I guess on that note, you want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Sure.
Okay. So, Jeff, I want you to imagine that there's a weird family that has moved in down the block from you.
Is it me?
That's to be determined.
Okay.
So, one day you think, okay, there's this weird family down there. Let me go introduce myself. So you bring over, I don't know, a casserole or like a basket of muffins or something. Cookies there. Oh, of course. Jeff's chocolate chip cookies, listeners. Jeff's chocolate chip cookies are fantastic.
Yeah.
I have been craving them ever since the last time he gave us some. So
I like making them. I think they're delicious. Like I make them the way I like them. So yeah. So anyway, thank you.
You show up at down the street. You show up with this big basket of chocolate chip cookies, and it's this tall black house. You knock on the door, and then after a moment or two, this very, very large individual. Now, hang on. You're probably thinking, "Oh, it's a dragon." No, it's not a dragon. It's just a very tall, maybe like a half orc or something. Very, very tall individual answers the door. Doesn't speak, just kind of looks down at you, pale face, gestures for you to follow him. So, okay, you're being a friendly neighbor, so you follow him inside. And then you go inside and you see this weird cavalcade of people. There's an uncle that's bald. There's, in my mind, I'm actually combining this with the monsters by mistake. So whatever. You go in.
It's fine.
There's an uncle that's bald. There's a grandpa that's a vampire. One of the people is like a Frankenstein's monster. Anyway, you go up and you hand them these cookies, you introduce yourselves. And then while you're making pleasantries with the new neighbors down the street, you begin to remember that this house, before they built this house, this was actually built on, there was an old cave that there was supposedly treasure buried inside. And you think you know how they got the money to build this house and buy all this weird stuff that they have in their house. And do you know where that money came from, Jeff?
Where did it come from, Gabe?
You think that money came from the dragon's hoard. I don't know if that story made any sense whatsoever.
So this is like the family that moved into the property over where my old neighbor was?
See, I don't know. Listeners, I've been doing this for a very long time.
I thought you were going to make like an Addams Family
that's
joke where it's like the Dragon's family. I don't know.
That's way better than what I would have done. Should I go back and do that instead?
No, it's fine.
In my mind, I was like, "Oh, this will be so much fun. It'll still make so much sense." And then as I got into it, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
What is happening?
Anyway, we're going on with it anyway. So today's magic item was submitted by Sean M via Facebook, and the item is the finger trap.
The finger.
This mundane device is often introduced by a king or emperor's second in command to determine the capability of an adventurer to overcome a challenge. The adventurer places each of their index fingers into the mouth of a dragon head, which sits at each end of a small dragon scale stylized cylinder. The adventurer will be asked to remove themselves from the trap. An intelligence or wisdom check with DC 14 or a strength check at or below a DC 10 will remove themselves from the trap. And then Sean added, I thought this would be a good way to introduce a party to the Emperor and set the initial tone of any conversation. And that's basically it. It's a finger trap, similar to like the Chinese finger trap, specifically the finger trap from the Addams Family movie, which is where my very misguided Dragon's Hoard intro was sort of coming from.
Right.
So yeah, it's a little finger trap. You put your fingers into it, and then once they're in there, you can't get your fingers out unless you succeed on a intelligence or wisdom check, or you essentially fail a strength check. Because as we all know, with those sorts of finger traps, the more you pull on them, the tighter they get. Although, when I was a kid, I had one of those, and one of my friends put on his fingers, and he just broke it. So, who's the winner now?
So maybe there should be like a strength if it's like 30 or above DC or something like that. You can
Sure. So you have to get a strength check. If you get a strength check between a 10 and a 20, you fail.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. But no, I like that. I think that's neat. That's like a strength check at or below 10. Sure.
That is definitely, I would say that's the standout mechanic about this. I mean, because there isn't really mechanics to this.
Right.
This is, it's an example of a magic item that is not meant to be, it's not a weapon. It's not a thing to attack somebody with or to help an adventurer along their journey. It's just it's a fun little device that serves a purpose in the story.
Mm-hmm.
You could theoretically have this be some kind of a restraint device. You could put one of these on a bad guy or something, and then they might not think to fail a strength check. I don't know. So this could be, something like this could be used as a device to restrain somebody, but for the purpose that it serves, I think it's cool. I think it's a fun reference, of course. And could serve just a fun little purpose in the story where they are going to be meeting somebody in a position of power, and the person just wants to see how the adventurers, how they approach challenges, how they overcome challenges, and then they can use that as the determining factor of whether they want to hire them, for example.
Right. Yeah. Can you get out of this finger trap?
Yeah.
You're hired.
Well, now I'm trying to think of are there other types of traps you can put the players in where they can only get out by failing a check. Like, what if there was an illusory maze where the only way to escape the maze, like maybe they're told that this is an illusion or that there are illusions in the maze, but the only way that they can follow the maze, the only way they can get to the correct ending of the maze is by letting themselves fall victim to the illusion. Like maybe without the illusion, the maze is a lot more confusing because maybe there's an illusion that's covering up a dead end. So you wouldn't go to that dead end if you saw the illusion, but you would go to that dead end if you were seeing through the illusion because you made your save.
Sure, yeah.
Or something.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah. So I guess listeners, think about that. Think about, are there challenges that could be better overcome by failing a check or a save rather than succeeding? Something that is intentionally made to subvert the expectations of someone who is trying to overcome it. Anyway, but I think that that's an interesting direction to go in. So thank you very much to Sean M. Did you have anything else to say about this, Jeff?
No, I think it's neat. It's, okay. It's simple, but that the whole, just the concept of, you pass if you get below the DC. Yeah. Like
kind of like it's like goat ball. You got your goat ball AC. You got your finger trap check.
Yeah, your finger trap DC.
All right. So once again, that was The Finger Trap, submitted by Sean M via Facebook. Thank you very much, Sean M. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for our main segment, or stories for the Funeral Pyre or Retirement Village, I'm going to say that there's probably not time to do so, but hey, go for it. Try it out. See what happens. How would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And I just want to remind all of our listeners that after episode 250, we're going to be doing one final bonus episode. It's going to be like an after party episode. So if you want to submit any kind of audio, you can get your voice on the podcast. Anything you want to say to us, anything you want to say to our listeners, we welcome you to do so. Just record anything and send it to us. Send it to us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. And, I've got some other fun stuff planned for that episode, but, we would love to get some listener submissions and get some cool stuff out there. So do that.
Yeah.
And then one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. Justin and the gang are creating new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They've got great stuff that they're coming out with every week. And Justin has been on the hustle, coming out with more and more products, coming out with more and more stuff on social media. They've always got stuff coming out on their Facebook group, on their Twitter, all that. So check out Crit Academy. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. I know we had an episode about actual play podcasts a couple episodes ago. So yeah, you can get some great actual play content on the network as well. And then also check out D&D Character Lab and the Kind GM podcast. Enough of all the admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Alchemical Brew on Reddit, and they ask, why do sorcerers use charisma as their spellcasting stat?
Yeah, so each of the different spellcasting classes in D&D, and Pathfinder and anything based off of those, they all have a different ability score that they use for their spellcasting. So in 5th edition D&D, wizards go off intelligence because they have they've studied, they have learned, they're using their knowledge to manipulate the energy in the world around them. Mm-hmm. So wizards use intelligence. We've got druids and clerics that use wisdom because they're connecting to the connection with their deity. They're drawing power from their deity and so on. Their connection to the world around them like that. So wisdom for divine spellcasting classes, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. And then you've got sorcerers and warlocks who use charisma. So this question is asking, why do they use charisma? So I was thinking we could get into exactly what it means. I guess, what is charisma? We can talk about that. We can talk about what it means to use charisma for your spellcasting stat, and then also maybe even throw out some other ideas for if they didn't use charisma, what would they use? So I guess, Jeff, how would you define charisma in D&D?
Well, I know we've definitely talked about charisma in the past. Like I feel like we've had a question like specifically about charisma.
We've had a couple, I think.
I don't know. Like I kind of see it as sort of like a willpower thing.
Okay.
Or because like although like your will save is based on your wisdom, is that correct?
Yeah. I think when you say willpower, I think you mean like in the colloquial sense, not necessarily in the game mechanic sense. Because will saves are wisdom based, or at least in previous editions were wisdom based. But then again, I personally think that wisdom in the D&D sense isn't necessarily wisdom in the colloquial sense. But I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. So like I feel like charisma kind of it's like your willpower because it is sort of because charisma, confidence, like charisma means confidence, which kind of means willpower.
Sure.
Like so I can see that as like it is able to control being able to control your mental state, your perceived mental state.
Sure.
And then like whenever I think like willpower, like the Green Lanterns, the Green Lantern Corps is all about willpower, and like that's how they control their rings and like their all their powers and stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, like I kind of tie charisma to willpower in that sense when it comes to like the spellcasting side of it.
Mm-hmm.
At least with sorcerers, maybe with warlocks I can see it be like charisma actually being kind of more in in the way that one would normally think what charisma means is being able to like schmooze your way through a situation.
Sure.
You're having a dialogue in a sense with your patron who is giving you your powers.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see like, the strength of your charisma dictates the strength of the power that you're getting from your patron.
Sure. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be that your charisma at the time of casting the spell. It could be that just your charisma, you're using your charisma score for these spells because when you negotiated with your patron,
yes,
this is the amount of power you were able to get. So maybe even if a player presented it that way, I might let them continue to use a given charisma score, even if something caused them to lose charisma, because this is the power I already have. I already made that negotiation. We've already got the contract signed.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying anybody else necessarily should do that. I just think it's an interesting way to think of it like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, like and like in a sense, like with sorcerers, you're sort of you are sort of like schmoozing yourself. Like you are convincing yourself, I can do this. I can use this ability. I can fire this. I can fire this cantrip. I can shoot this fireball. Like I'm gonna do it. Like a lot of in a lot of fiction and stuff, when it's like some main character has an innate power that they haven't quite gotten down, like they got to find their inspiration or something. They got to find they got to find their their way of using that power.
Sure.
And like maybe it's like in other fictions where it's like somebody is the son of a great powerful wizard or hero or something, and like everyone expects them to be also as good, and like they're a disappointment and they're like, crap, no, what do I do? But they got to find their own way.
Sure.
And on doing that, and like that does take, there is a sort of amount of charisma you have to use on yourself to convince yourself that you can do the things that you're trying to do.
Sure. I remember a long time ago I heard somebody say like, how dumb are we as people when we lie to ourselves? We're the one doing the lying and we still believe it.
Right. Yeah. Like, so like, yeah, like you're like, you can be very convincing to yourself about being wrong, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way to think of it. So I think of it a little bit differently. And of course, listeners, you can interpret this however you want. Just understand, like, the mechanics wise, this is what the designers of the game wanted it to be. You can rationalize it however you want. If you're the DM, I suppose theoretically you could change that too. Well, we'll get to that. But as long as you just understand that they do use their charisma, then you can come up with your own way to justify it. Here's the way I justify it. So I'm actually going to give you kind of like a little bit of a treatise on ability scores in general. And I'm sure this has come up in the show before, but I like to think of the ability scores. There's strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. I like them in that order because I like strength and intelligence being kind of at the top of the line. So you got your 3 physical stats, your 3 mental stats. I think strength and intelligence have something in common. Dexterity and wisdom have something in common. And then I think constitution and charisma have something in common. So I would say strength and intelligence are both your capacity for doing something. So like whether you can lift a rock is based on what is the physical capacity that your body is able to put out.
Right.
So that's your strength. Similarly, when are you able to learn something or to solve a problem? That is your mental capacity. So like strength and intelligence are kind of similar in that way. Dexterity and wisdom, I think that the colloquial version of the word wisdom is not quite what D&D means, in my opinion. I feel like in D&D, wisdom is just your perception. It's not necessarily that you are wise. Like, I really think that being wise is kind of, in D&D terms, more intelligence than it is wisdom, even though I know it's the word wisdom, whatever. I just feel like, because everything, you've got your will saves are kind of how well you're able to perceive the truth of something that's attacking your mind. You've got your perception skill in there. You've got your insight skill in there. I think that dexterity and wisdom are both how well you're able to react to your environment. Dexterity is how well you're able to physically react. Wisdom is how well you're able to mentally react.
Right.
Then you've got constitution and charisma. Constitution, and this is playing lots of word games here, what with intelligence and wisdom and being wise and so on. Constitution is how strong your body is. Again, I know word games, whatever.
Right.
But like constitution is how many hit points you have. It's also how well your body is able to resist poison, resist being petrified. It is how well your body is able to differentiate itself from outside forces. So if a knife is trying to become part of your body, your constitution is going to be able to say, no, my body is my body. Get that knife out of here. Same with poison and so on. Similarly, I view charisma as being how strong your mind is, how well your mind is able to differentiate itself from the world around you.
Right. Because
So,
if somebody's trying to tell you what to do,
exactly. We've talked about charisma in the past, and I don't think that charisma is, I think you're selling charisma short if it's just your likability. Because a lot of people think, oh, that really loud, annoying guy at the bar, that guy has low charisma. I would say no. I would say the guy with low charisma is the one you didn't even notice, because every time he tried to speak, someone else spoke over him. Because he wasn't able to differentiate himself from the world around him. So when you're trying to convince somebody of something, that is you imposing your will, your personality onto someone else. So I love force of personality as being a description of charisma, because I think that really fits the way that I view what charisma is. So the reason I'm going through all of this is because I think that it makes perfect sense for a sorcerer to use charisma, because sorcerers gain their power from their bloodline. We'll get to the bloodline stuff in a little bit. Sorry to keep pushing stuff down the road. But if your magic is something that is just innate to who you are, it's part of your soul, so to speak, then charisma is, in my opinion, the best stat to represent that, because this magic is me. I am this magic. So how strong my magic is, how well I'm able to force my magic onto the world around me is going to be the same force that is how well I'm able to force my personality onto the world around me, because they are one and the same. So I really like charisma as an ability score for spellcasting for that reason, because like this is something that is innate to me. It's part of who I am. And so it is as powerful as I am as whatever is me. That's how strong my magic is, I guess.
Right.
So, I've heard people say, well, okay, sorcerers get their magic from their bloodline, from their genetic makeup, whatever. Shouldn't it be Constitution? And, my reaction to that is, yeah, maybe. That could work. That's a cool way of looking at it too. Now, the idea of having a Constitution-based spellcaster probably sounds weird, and if it does sound weird, then that means you didn't play 4th edition D&D, because in 4th edition D&D, warlocks could cast off of their Constitution.
Huh.
I don't know what the justification was in that case, because it wasn't that they were getting it from a patron from their Constitution somehow. I think it was just a balance thing. Like, there were a lot of examples in 4th edition of being able to choose which ability score you used. Right. For example, your Fortitude save could be Constitution, or it could be Strength.
Right, yeah, you could choose... Yeah.
You could choose whichever one you wanted to use. That's the one that you used. Same with Reflex. That was either Dexterity or Intelligence. And then your Will was either Charisma or Wisdom. And I loved that. I thought that was such a cool idea. Purely a mechanical thing. I mean, it makes sense in game too. It would make sense now, but it's not the case now. And it's just a mechanical thing. They chose that they wanted the game to be more about, kind of focusing your stats in a specific way. They wanted to make it so that it was easy to make a character that was a very, very focused stat-wise. Mm-hmm. So they allowed you to choose things like that. You could make you could have a wizard that basically only needed intelligence, because their AC could be based off of intelligence. Their ranged attacks could be based off of intelligence.
Right.
Their reflex could be based off of intelligence. And then you could make a warlock that was just tons of Constitution, and everything went off of Constitution. So that was cool. That was a cool option that they had. So if in 5th edition they had sorcerers that could cast from their Constitution, I don't know what effects it would have mechanically, but there is precedent for it thematically. So I mean, that would be cool. Can you think of any other examples of stats that a sorcerer could use for their spellcasting?
I mean, because like with the different bloodlines and everything, I feel like that can kind of tie into which stat that they use. So maybe if they're like a divine bloodline, they maybe can use wisdom. If they're that kind of a thing. Yeah. If they're more of a, I don't know, like an aberrant bloodline, maybe that'd be more. Maybe that'd be Constitution. I don't know.
Maybe.
Or if there's something more like a Fae or something, that could be wisdom as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I feel like it might be tied. It could be tied to the type of bloodline that they are.
I actually really like that idea.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if that's a thing in Pathfinder. Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of in Pathfinder 2nd edition. There's like instead of like a spell list for every class, there are 4 spell lists, and different classes might have access to different spell lists. Yeah. There's like arcane, and obviously like wizard would have access to that. But with sorcerer, you get access to different spell lists based on your bloodline.
Interesting.
So I think like a similar idea to that would be like, just you're using a different you're using a different stat depending on your bloodline of what kind of sorcerer you are.
Sure.
A dragon one could be, I don't know, a dragon one, like a dragon blood like could be like intelligence or charisma or something.
Sure. What if you had a Titan bloodline, so you used strength?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be neat.
I love this idea.
Yeah.
Good job.
Or because it's and like that kind of a thing could happen with warlocks as well.
Yeah.
Depending on which patron they're using, and like I like 5th edition warlocks. I think with the patron, I like the idea of charisma just because the way I mentioned earlier was like I think it's kind of a neat idea that it's like they are sort of negotiating a contract with their patron to get the powers that they have. So like charisma, I feel like is pretty fitting for them. But
no, I really like that. I feel like I heard that during development they thought about giving sorcerers Constitution spellcasting instead of charisma, but I don't recall where I heard that from. So I might be talking out of school.
Right, and like. I feel like there maybe like people's initial idea, like hesitance to Constitution is that like because Constitution's like tied to your hit points.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like an overpowered thing to like if your Constitution is your primary stat for your class, like if you're dumping all of your points into Constitution, like that, I feel like that could be powerful because like, okay, now I have a bunch of hit points because I have a high Constitution.
Sure.
And it's my casting stat, so I'm really good at attacking.
Yeah.
It can feel kind of, powerful. That being said, like there are stats like dexterity, which can do the same thing because dexterity is also tied to your defense, your AC, and a lot of classes can use it as their primary stat.
Right. Dexterity has always kind of had that issue of like being the strongest stat. Just because so many really important things have always been based off of it. I feel like 5th edition has toned it down a little bit.
Right.
But still there.
Yeah, because even like with reflex saves, like a lot of things go off a reflex save. Like, breath weapons, reflex save. Fireball, reflex save.
Like what goes off what's a charisma save, Jeff?
There's not many.
Yeah, not many. There's like, a few.
Yeah, there's some, and there's some where I'm like, oh wow, that's a charisma save. I didn't realize that. And they're out there, but like it's not a common one.
Yeah,
having Constitution being your casting stat could be seen as powerful, but I don't know. I feel like it's fine.
Yeah,
like the balance of your abilities, like because you can only make your ability scores so high. It's not going to break your game if your character, like even if like somehow your AC, hit points, and your primary attacking stat were all in one attribute.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be that's going to be a powerful character, but I don't think it's going to be a broken character.
It's going to be a powerful character in combat.
Yeah.
But the game can be and arguably should be more than just combat.
Well, and that's the thing though, is like because if I can put my 18 in my Constitution and have good attack and hit points and defense, then that means I have all these other points that I can put into anything else.
That's
and that
true.
way I could just like dump the rest into charisma, and now I'm both really good at combat and really good at roleplay
fair
challenges. Enough. So like again, it'll be a powerful character, but I don't think it's going to be busted because it's just. A lot of the rules in all of these systems, like usually like you can't have above this amount of stat when you first make your character. Like in 5th edition, if you're doing point buy, you can't have above like a 16 or 17 or something like that.
I think the standard array has a 15 as the highest stat.
So 15. So I don't think you can have. You can't have above a 17. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So like that's that, like that there are other things that are balancing that, and I don't know. I don't think it's that powerful to say, to let somebody use a Constitution score as a casting stat.
It's definitely worth trying. Like I would let somebody try it and see how it works.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with it. Like, and usually I'm probably biased because I create a lot of characters. I'm like, man, I wish I could.
Sure.
if only, if only I had a few more points to put into this stat or that stat, I'd be a little bit more happy with this build.
Yeah.
But again, like in most cases, I don't think it's going to break. That's not going to be what breaks the character. That's not not going to be what breaks the adventure or the game. Like that.
Sure.
That really isn't. Like having a few extra hit points on top of being, and on top of being to actually make more rolls than, and again, there's rolls, I really don't think that's gonna make a character overpowerful. It might make them powerful, I don't think it's gonna make them overpowered.
Yeah.
Apparently, we had a lot to say on this one.
I guess, yeah.
All right, our next question comes from Eklunds on Reddit, and they ask, "What is your favorite utility spell?"
Yeah. So, you've got your combat spells. Let me actually see if there's an official answer. Let me just type in what is a utility spell. Okay. According to this is from Wowpedia, so it's the wiki for World of Warcraft. According to Wowpedia, utility is the term for a spell or ability that has some special effect that is helpful, but usually not directly combat oriented. There are exceptions. Some combat spells with especially odd effects are referred to as utility spells. Anyway, so yeah, utility spells. You've got your combat spells, your damaging spells, and then you've got, generally speaking, your utility spells. Your spells that are just not necessarily for dealing damage, just kind of everything else.
Right, yeah. Like their intended use isn't necessarily for combat. Sometimes you can maybe squeeze it in there, figure something out. And there are plenty of people who have found broken ways to use utility spells in combat, because a lot of times utility spells are balanced in the way that they're not meant for combat, so you can usually use them more more often, combat, utility spell, there's a lot of utility cantrips.
Oh yeah.
So it's okay, the whole thing with prestidigitation, can you, people have found ways to use prestidigitation to do stupid amounts of damage. And, and a lot of that really is well, if the DM lets you do it, then I guess. But
and also it's low levels where people don't really have very many combat options, so everybody's always trying to find, especially with a spell that doesn't cost anything to cast.
Yeah,
people are going to try to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of just went through the player's handbook and was just looking at various utility spells, and I picked out ones that I like. What?
Sorry, I just thought of one, but go ahead. Okay. I'm sorry.
I picked out ones that I like, that particularly ones that I haven't really seen used very much. Because, you got your fly, you've got your haste, cure wounds. Everybody knows what cure wounds is. That's not my favorite.
Yeah. Well, first, I guess a healing. Well, healing. I feel like healing isn't a utility spell. Yeah,
I wasn't even sure exactly where to draw the line on whether something is utility or not.
Yeah, because healing can be used in combat, and it is directly. I feel like it's more directly related to combat because you're healing yourself. Hit points. I feel like healing does not count as a utility spell, but I don't know. Fair enough. But I could see that I go either way.
Yeah, invisibility. Okay, that's a cool spell. Everybody loves loves invisibility, but it's not my favorite.
Right. And that's another one where it's definitely. I feel like it's utility in nature, but it is. I feel like its primary use, or I don't know about primary use, but one of its main uses is you turn invisible so you can make a sneak attack or something.
Sure.
So but I feel like that one is a utility spell, but that could be used very well in combat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just.
That's fine.
I don't mean to harp on all the things you're mentioning.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I understand. There isn't. It's weird where to draw the line. That's why I even got that Wowpedia definition,
right?
Because it's just kind of anything that is not directly combat oriented,
right?
So I've got a few examples. I'm not sure if you what you have, but I can go through my list, and then anything you want to add,
sure,
feel free.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of go. These aren't really in any order, but I do have my favorite one at the top, so I'll get to that one last. Word of Recall is a spell. Have you ever seen Word of Recall used?
I'm not 100% sure what that one is.
It's basically teleport, but you always teleport to a specific location.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like you have your home base, and then you attune the spell to that, and then every time you cast it, teleports you back to your home base.
Right. Yeah, that's that's a very common thing in like a video game or something. Like you have your recall spell.
Yeah.
Or your Hearthstone or whatnot.
It never got used, but in the campaign where I was playing as my cleric Sathorn, when I was playing as Chronic S Block, I had a town. Like I sort of became mayor of a town, separate from the rest of the group. Nobody else knew that I was the mayor of a town. And story-wise, I told the DM that I was making a single-use magic item of Word of Recall, and gave it to, or wait, how did it work? I don't remember exactly how I made it work, but basically I had made it so that the people of the town could summon me there anytime, just one time. And so it was there for emergencies. If they ever needed it, if they absolutely needed me, they could do this thing and it would Word of Recall me back to my home base. It never came up because I think the campaign ended probably before it ever would have. But I liked the idea of like having, I don't know when this is just a plot thing for the DM. I don't know when this is going to come into effect, but hey, DM, you can pull me away anytime you want if you have a good reason.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting. Like that's a neat thing to have for your character. That is also a nice thing, a nice tool for your DM. Like if you're a DM, like even if it's sort of like, oops, I almost killed you by doing something, by making a mistake of putting a way too powerful enemy in front of you or something like that, they could be like, oh, you get summoned away, and it's fun, like it's a fun thing. It's like, it's not a, hey guys, I did a dumb, and can we undo the thing that just happened because I didn't prepare for this? It's a, oh my God, your people needed your help for something. Wow, that's so crazy.
Right. So yeah, Word of Recall I think it's just, I like it better than I like Teleport, even though Teleport can do so much more. I just like something that, takes you to your home base.
Right,
hey, what if you found a scroll of Word of Recall that was attuned to a specific location, and it was a location that you couldn't get to any other way?
Sure.
Another one, Tensors Floating Disk. It's an oldie but goodie. I know this isn't an uncommon one. Everybody uses this spell, but it's just a fun little spell.
Yeah. Right.
Rope Trick and Sequester are two spells. I mean, they're pretty different in scope, but they're both kind of like, I need to hide something for a little bit.
Yeah.
Rope Trick.
Yeah, Rope Trick is pretty good. I like Rope Trick.
Yeah. Rope Trick in 5th edition lasts for an hour, and you can hide yourself in like a little pocket dimension thing, and then you can even make it so like nobody can even see that you're there. And so you can hide there for an hour. Sequester is much more long-term. You can even, I think you can have it be indefinite as long as you have it set for a specific trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, you select a person or an object or whatever, and it just kind of like, you set whatever conditions will cause it to come back, and then until those conditions are met, it's gone. It does not exist. So I think that's a neat thing. Similarly, Imprisonment could be used offensively, but
right,
could be used non-offensively.
Yeah, Imprisonment's pretty good.
Yeah. So that's it's, I believe, 9th level. It's a very, very powerful. Yeah. This thing is trapped.
Yeah.
It's forever.
Like you need to make something just gone.
Yeah.
It's if it can't be killed, you're going to do this.
Yeah. A couple more spells that are kind of similar to each other. Hallucinatory Terrain and Mirage Arcane. Okay. So these are two spells that make an environment look like a different environment. Hallucinatory Terrain is a much lower level version. So like Mirage Arcane can affect like miles and miles of area and make it look completely different. You can have lush forest look like a desolate wasteland. You can have a kingdom look like a forest. You can have a forest look like a different forest. Who knows? I just like how they're illusions, but they are not necessarily illusions that are anybody's going to be directly interacting with, you know?
Sure.
I just think a good illusion can be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one, I mean, is kind of combat related, but it's I think Death Ward is really interesting in 5th edition D&D. It used to be that it made you immune to a bunch of stuff. It made you immune to negative energy effects, made you immune to undead effects. In 5th edition D&D, Death Ward just means, hey, the next thing that would reduce you to 0 hit points reduces you to 1 hit point.
Huh.
That's cool.
I don't know. It's like for like you could use that for like traps and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you know something really nasty is about to come and you have no other, you can, well, I'm going to survive it. I won't survive another attack if another attack comes after, but I will survive this one.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, or if there's some like big catastrophe or something about to happen, like a freaking meteor or something. About
Sure. The Thane of Scales is falling from the sky.
Right. Yes. You'd be like, ooh, let me use that one, scroll of Death Ward I have.
Yeah. I mean, or also like it has a fairly long duration. So, you just have it on you and then anything that would kill you doesn't kill you.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Throw it on, run down the hall of the Tomb of Horrors.
Sure. Oh, jump into the demon face.
I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, I feel like that wouldn't work. I don't know.
Because there's no damage. I don't think there's any actual damage with a Sphere of Annihilation.
Yeah, I don't know. Next up, I have Commune or Commune with Nature, like any of those spells. Really, just anything that lets you speak with something beyond the mortal realm, I think is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Commune lets you speak to your deity.
Yeah.
Like, not directly. I think you, like, ask them questions or something. But still, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's, yeah, that a lot of cool stuff can come from that.
Yeah. I think Alder Self is a criminally underused spell.
Alder Self, yeah, sure.
You can disguise yourself, but you can give yourself various natural qualities. You can give yourself a natural weapon. I believe you can give yourself gills. I don't have the spell handy, and I'm not going to look it up online. I think you can give yourself like a climb speed or something. Just like little, you used to be able to give yourself wings back in 3rd edition. Can't do that anymore.
Sure,
but
yeah.
I just think that it's a really cool spell, and it just like it partially alters you to be some other kind of creature.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise that would be a 2nd level fly ability.
Yeah. I mean, well, but again, it was in 3rd edition. It was just a really crappy fly, but still.
Right, because there was maneuverability, the flight maneuverability stats or whatever.
Yeah.
You had like 20-foot clumsy or something like that. Right.
Yeah, I think the fly spell gave you good maneuverability, which was 1 step below perfect, and then I think it was clumsy is what you got from Alder Self.
Right.
I think that Forbiddance and then Hallow and Unhallow are some spells that like I feel like players never use, but I think are pretty cool. They're cool things to put on a dungeon. Forbiddance is you select an area. There's a specific amount of space you can choose. Forbiddance makes it so that nobody can enter this area except a specific creature or a group of creatures that the caster determines. If you enter that area, you take a ton of damage and like might get just bodily pushed out of the area. So I think that's really cool. And then Hallow and Unhallow, they're things that you've definitely encountered in adventures before. Just whoever casts the spell, I think it's a cool effect. You can make an area holy or unholy. I think you can also put additional effects onto it when you cast the spell. It's a cool thing to be able to make an area, make a dungeon, make a home base more aligned with, you and what you are. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Similarly, there's the spells Antipathy there's one spell, Antipathy/Sympathy, which is you make an area or object either repulsive to certain creatures or very attractive to certain creatures. So like you can make it so that you can cast this spell on on a statue, and anyone who looks at that statue is in love with the statue and they need to get closer to the statue, or they see the statue and they want to run away.
Right, yeah.
That's so cool. Like
that's neat.
I never see anybody use that, but it's such a cool idea. I want to use it on stuff, you know. And then I've got just a few more. Anything that lets you see other places, like clairvoyance or scrying, I think are really cool. Those definitely come in handy on adventures. You can see what's inside a room before you burst into the room to attack. Scrying is even cool to use. It's cool for monsters or for villains to use on the party, you know. And then there's fun ways to foil scrying, but then there's fun ways to foil the foiling of a scrying spell, you know? And then any of the conjure spells, so like conjure elemental, conjure animals, conjure fae, any of that kind of stuff. I just like being able to conjure stuff, not just for its ability to attack, but you can summon a helper that has knowledge you don't have, that has abilities you don't have.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Like certain, at least a higher level like conjure spells, like you are conjuring a demon.
Yeah.
And demons aren't stupid. Like they're not just mindless, like, you know, mindless monsters that attack because you conjured, attack the things that you conjured for them to attack. Like they have a life outside of being conjured. Yeah. Because like that's the whole point of conjuration. You're not creating a monster to fight for you. You are calling it from its plane of existence. Yeah. To, do your bidding, because that's the part of the spell is you're basically like, I have brought you here and I am commanding you to do this thing. But it's like, it's like a demon. It's like, I've brought you here to like, let's talk about demons for a while, huh? So you might need to, like your big bad evil might be a type of demon that you can conjure, and you can conjure one of those demons and see if they know anything about this guy. Yeah. Like that's really neat.
And then the last one that I put is, Demiplane.
Oh, Demiplane?
Because, it's just so cool.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Create a Demiplane.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not to love.
You got your own little Demiplane. That's like, who doesn't want that? Like, if we're voting for like what spell I'd want to have in like IRL, like that's definitely one of the top contenders is like to be able to like if my house was a demiplane, like if my living space was just in a demiplane that I could just pop into anytime I wanted, no matter where I was. Yeah, that'd be great. You just you could travel anywhere because it doesn't matter because I'm always a spell cast away from home. Sure, but I guess teleport can do that too. Anyway,
well, I suppose, and word of recall.
Or sure, but again, like a demiplane's got more to it than that, I guess. But
it's so cool. I love it.
There were a couple more. Because definitely a few of those were among my favorites, but I also have Fabricate, which I've brought up before as one of my favorite spells. I think it's like 5th level or something around that level, and it's basically just turn materials into finished product kind of a thing. Like it is I think it's a 10-minute spell, and it does a bigger area depending on the level of spell, but you can basically turn a pile of wood into a shed in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So if you like really need to get out of a storm or something, whatever, do that. Build a bridge or fix a bridge or something like that. Like build a small bridge to get over a ravine. You can do that in 10 minutes. Like, it, cause it always makes me think of Full Metal Alchemist, where it's basically like they draw a transmutation circle and can turn, raw materials into a finished product, into something useful. Sure. I always think that's good. The other one that I thought of while you were going off earlier, it was Leomund's Tiny Hut. Okay. Yeah. And it's a popular one. It's good. I love that spell. Like it's just like, I remember coming across and being like, wow, this is a really good spell. And like, yes, you could use it in combat because like, you can basically protect yourself. Like you can kind of, well, actually, I don't know what the casting time it is, to be honest.
1 minute.
Right, because I think it's also a ritual spell.
I think so.
Yeah. So
yeah,
which would make it 10 minutes to cast as a ritual, I think, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's just you basically put up a protective dome, and I think it lasts for 8 hours or something like that. Like I feel, or at the very least, you can do a short rest in there, if not also a long rest.
8 hours.
8 hours, right?
Yeah.
So like you can long rest in there and be like, not perfectly protected, but pretty much, most things are not going to be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. So I think we had some good spells to think about in there. So I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, do you listen to any actual play podcasts? If so, tell us your favorites. And of course, we had Damien from Adventures in Aurelia on. Did you? I don't recall, Jeff. Have you listened to any actual plays?
I mean, like I've definitely listened to a couple episodes of Damien's show.
Mm-hmm.
But like in general, I don't listen to actual plays.
Sure,
because it is one of those things where I just I don't know. It's hard for me to get into because I can't get out of the like I can't just suspend my disbelief, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
I guess it's I guess that's the right term, but like a suspension of disbelief sort of a thing where I can't just I can't shut my brain off about how they're playing the game rather than just the fun of the story.
Yeah. So
it's a little difficult for me to listen to those types of things. So I generally don't. But I mean, Adventures in Aurelia, go listen.
Yeah.
I don't dislike any of them. Well,
sure.
I guess I haven't listened to any that I don't absolutely hate. But then again, I haven't listened to many. So.
So we got a few responses. Darren W. on Facebook says, no, I tried Critical Role and even listened to your actual play episodes, but it just feels like watching/listening to an unboxing video. I can't seem to get into live play pods. Probably should have put trigger warning at the start and no offense also, LOL. And no Darren, I totally get it.
Taken. Yeah.
No offense taken. I 100% get it.
I like that. Unboxing video. I get it.
Yeah. Sean M says, listen, no, but I have become a critter watching Critical Role. Although I will need something to fill my podcast hole left when two brave adventurers plan to go to the retirement village. Yeah. I don't like the expression podcast hole. That's not good. Over on Reddit, Alstar the Minotaur says, I listen to quite a few. The Adventure Zone is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, but there's some other really good ones also. The Glass Cannon podcast is a Pathfinder actual play run by a bunch of bros mixing in sports and theater references in equal parts. It has phenomenal production value and a fun cast of characters. Not Another D&D podcast is a homebrew 5e podcast run by a couple of former cast members of College Humor. It'll make you cry as often as laugh. However, my favorite is Dimension 20. They produce video content to go along with their shows as well. It is truly an incredible production. The DM for most of the seasons is Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is my gold standard on how to be a good DM. There you go. Nemopoman says, I've been listening to High Rollers. Started from the beginning and I'm nearly caught up. I think it's well done. I'm also looking for more suggestions for actual play, which I responded, there will be lots of suggestions in 2 weeks ago's episode.
Yeah.
Rocknathal says, I don't like 2 because it makes me miss my game. I feel you, buddy.
Sure.
Jason E. says, Glass Cannon podcast. It's a Pathfinder 1st edition playthrough of the Giant Slayer adventure path. They also have a whole network of other podcasts available through their Patreon. And yeah, that's our friend Jay. He's recommended this to me in the past. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to check them out. LJ Hui says, Dungeons and Daddies, not a BDSM podcast. Amazingly funny D&D 5e actual play podcast. Highly recommended. And then Arcanist Winterbrand says, I have listened to Critical Role campaigns 1 and 2, not very excited for number 3. I have also started the Adventure Zone. The most unique thing is we record our sessions and I listen to them before the next session. Much easier to do that than take notes if you have the listening time. my work affords me the same audio capacity I think Gabe talked about having one time. And yeah, I have many, many, many hours, about 50 or 60 hours a week to listen to podcasts. So that is beneficial.
Yeah.
We didn't have anybody on Twitter. And then over on Discord, the discussion actually went very off topic very quickly. And it's hard to kind of sort through it all. And also, this episode's, I have to be somewhere in a few minutes anyway. So I think I'll just say, go check out our Discord and see some of the discussion on there at bit.ly/InterPartyDiscord. So that was the last social media question. Our next social media question, and I should probably mention that this is going to be the last, this is going to be covered on our last normal episode. So this is going to be covered on episode 250. So, appropriately, the question is, in the next year, what are some of your gaming goals?
Well, I would like to continue playing with you, Jay, and Steve.
And Skeeve, yeah.
Skeeve, sorry, Steve. I also within that group, I've got. I mean, we've all sort of told each other we have plans to do some GMing. So.
Sure.
But I do have something specific in mind as far as I do want to run I do want to continue that pirate adventure, or at least some version of it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to play as Captain Tobias Winter again.
Yeah. So I'll try to I don't know, cuz I donated to the Kickstarter for what the heck is it? Roll for Combat. Okay. And then they have a pirate adventure that's tied to it, and so I'm excited to get my hands on that and take a look at it and see what I can, if I want to run that just straight out of the book, or maybe do some adjustments to it. So so yeah, that's I feel like I'll probably be able to do something with that within the next year.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I don't recall if it ended up on the finished episode or not, but yeah, we in our group chat between you and me and the other two guys in our gaming group, Jay is currently running a campaign, and then you said that you were interested in running a campaign, in picking up a campaign or starting a new one, I think, and then Steve said something like, "Oh, actually, I was also thinking of running something." And I was like, "Okay." In the service of full disclosure, I should probably mention I too was thinking about running something next year. So I have two things in mind that I would like to run, either for us or maybe for I don't know, maybe a looking into the future, possibly some sort of a podcast related thing if I decide to jump back into podcasts so soon. But in particular, two things I want to run at some point. One is Tomb of Annihilation. I got Tomb of Annihilation for my birthday last year, I think, and I think it's really cool. I like a lot of the stuff about it, and I've played the very, very first section of it, so I would like to play the whole thing at some point, and just to run the whole thing. So hopefully do something with that in the next year. Also, there's an adventure that I've kind of wanted to run for a very, very long time, and it's called Curse of the Azure Bonds. I used to have a computer game based on it.
Yeah.
It was a 2nd edition Forgotten Realms adventure. And I've just been, in recent weeks, I've been thinking about oh man, if I could run anything, if I had the opportunity to run an adventure and everybody was just down for whatever, I think I would like to try and run that. That's also, as far as I know, it's a lot shorter than Tomb of Annihilation, so chances are higher that I will attempt that before I attempt, something else. So, I don't know, I just think it would be a lot of fun, and I've got some fun ideas for how it could work, if I or whoever did take part in it. So, anyway, cool. Those are my goals, is to play one or hopefully both of those things.
Nice.
Really just play more D&D, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's take a deep breath. Twilight has fallen. The beasts have been slain. The townspeople have been saved. Your job is done. It is time to set your armor down in the last retirement village. Because I keep I kept thinking that we were done with retirement villages, and then Damien brought one in, and then we just got one right at the last second from Wolfpack Nate on Discord.
Yeah.
So
I guess
here we are, Wolfpack Nate. I hope you're happy. I don't know why I'm acting like this is a bad thing.
How dare you?
Right. Anyway. Nathaniel Wolfthorn is a level 15 or 16 half-elf Circle of the Moon druid who I played through the Tyranny of Dragons campaign my brother ran, Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat for those who don't know. After the module part ended, he had gained a magic quarterstaff that had been dropped in the final battle by the former head of the Emerald Enclave, and one of his friends had fallen into the portal to the Hells when Tiamat was defeated. Spoiler alert. For a few years after the battle, Nathaniel threw himself into his research and role as new head of the Enclave, and eventually, he and the rest of the original party reunited to go save their friend who had fallen into hell. This was a homebrew continuation of the campaign that my brother started running for us, but life happened, and we kind of stopped meeting up and playing. He has since expressed interest in starting up another game in the West Marches style, but for now, Nathaniel has rescued his friend from hell and is just focusing on running the Enclave. One day, he may pull a staff out of the closet, and the Packmaster, he was raised by wolves, and the staff was a homebrew item my brother made for me called the Staff of the Packmaster. The Packmaster may return to the fray, but for now, he runs the Enclave, though he does still yearn for the call of adventure. And that's pretty cool. Good job, Nathan. So let's raise a glass in memory of Nathaniel Wolfthorn as we say, "How?" I'll put some echo on there. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. For now, we're not going to be having very many more of those. And you can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, we do still have a $1 tier for our Patreon. We're not going to be putting out any more content after this month. However, I still want to keep everything hosted for the foreseeable future. So every dollar helps. Every little bit helps. And there's tons and tons of content on there. Hundreds of hours worth of content. Maybe not hundreds of hours. A couple hundred hours worth of content on there for anybody who wants to join. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you could watch us play video games.
There you go. Also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict and tell us your favorite moments from the show. If you do, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of the great people over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
don't find yourself in a podcast hole.